Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling quite a big topic, finding those compelling long-term investment opportunities, specifically in the Indonesian stock market, looking out, say, between now and 2035.
Exactly. And we've got some interesting source material to dig into, a report looking at potentially undervalued stocks and another on recent IPOs, the ones with venture capital backing.
Right. So our mission today is basically to pull out the key insights for you. What sectors look promising? Which companies might be worth watching for long-term growth?
That's the plan, give you a clear picture.
Okay, so let's set the scene first. What's the current economic backdrop in Indonesia right now?
Well, 2024 saw GDP growth at 5.03%. Pretty healthy.
Yeah, not bad at all.
And the forecast for this year, 2025, is hovering around 5.1%. President Prabowo, though, he set a really ambitious target.
The 8% one.
That's the one. 8% growth by 2029. Now, getting there involves a few moving parts. Things like consumer spending being a bit sluggish, plus global uncertainties. They're influencing Bank Indonesia's thinking on maybe cutting rates.
Okay.
And the government's taking an expansionary fiscal stance, spending more, which means the budget deficit has widened a bit.
Didn't we also see some nervousness in the Jakarta market recently, back in March?
We did, yeah. There was actually a temporary trading halt. Investors were a bit apprehensive about the new administration's economic plans.
Understandable.
There's also some, let's say, ongoing discussion around the Sovereign Wealth Fund, Antara, and its impact. But it's important to balance that.
Right. It's not all caution.
No, exactly. Indonesia has record high foreign exchange reserves. And interestingly, stock market valuations right now look, well, quite attractive. Lower PE ratios, high dividend yields.
Meaning stocks might be relatively cheaper compared to earnings.
Potentially, yes, and paying out decent dividends.
Okay, so looking further out then, beyond the immediate picture, what are the big long-term drivers we should be aware of?
Well, institutions like the World Bank and IMF, they're generally projecting continued growth around that 5.1% annual mark.
Okay.
Key drivers. You've got a large, young, working-age population. That's a huge demographic plus. And the digital economy, it's just exploding.
That keeps coming up everywhere.
It does. Potential for an 8-fold increase by 2030. Huge numbers, like U.S. $360 billion, maybe even up to U.S. $600 billion. Plus, the government's really pushing for foreign direct investment.
Into specific areas.
Yeah, especially downstream processing, adding value to raw materials and renewables. And don't forget major infrastructure projects. Nusantara, the new capital, plus big renewable energy plans.
You mentioned the digital economy's potential. But are there challenges to hitting those higher growth targets like the 8% or even the sustained 6-7% needed for the 2045 vision?
Oh, definitely. Challenges exist. Indonesia needs to boost investment levels and productivity. Manufacturing's contribution to GDP has actually been slipping a bit.
True.
And there's still a heavy reliance on commodity exports, which can be volatile. Investment rates aren't quite back to pre-pandemic highs, and the tax take is lower than some regional peers. So achieving that golden Indonesia 2045 vision, becoming a top 5 global economy that needs sustained 6-7% growth, there's work to do.
Makes sense. So given that context, which specific sectors really stand out as having the highest potential over this next decade or so?
Okay, 4 key areas really emerge from the analysis. First, as we mentioned, the digital economy. Projected to hit nearly US $150 billion this year alone. Think AI adoption. Fintech is huge with smartphone penetration, digital infrastructure, software as a service, e-commerce. Tokopedia, Shopee.
Digital payments too, right? GoPay, OVO.
Absolutely. And P2P lending. Second is renewable energy. Big government targets here, over 50% renewable mix by 2030. Massive potential in solar, hydro, bioenergy.
Huge potential.
Third, downstream basic materials. The government wants Indonesia to be a major player in the EV supply chain by processing minerals like nickel, copper, cobalt locally, not just exporting raw stuff.
Adding that value.
Precisely. And fourth, infrastructure. Continued investment in transport, energy, digital connectivity, especially linked to Nusantara and those renewable targets.
Right. So the report you mentioned actually screened for some specific, potentially undervalued companies in these areas.
It did. It looked for small or mid-cap companies, BEI listed, showing decent growth, but trading at valuations PE, PB ratios below their average or industry peers.
Any examples jump out?
Yeah, a few. In tech, PT Metrodata Electronics, MTDL, consistent revenue growth, strong profit growth too. Largest IT company there.
Okay. Renewables.
2 names popped up. PT Pertamina Geothermal Energy, PGEO. a leader in geothermal, obviously. And PT Concana Energy Listari, Keen, focus more on hydropower.
And basic materials.
PT Bumi Resources Minerals, BRMS, they're focused on gold and anticipating a big production increase. Gold price is looking favorable too.
Interesting. What about newer companies? Recent IPOs, sometimes there's opportunity there, though maybe higher risk.
True. 2024 was a bit slower for IPOs, but the IDX expects a rebound this year, especially in renewables and tech, often with VC backing.
Any recent ones catch your eye from the sources?
Yeah, two notable ones, PT4 Kopi Indonesia or 4 Coffee. It's an F&B tech play, a coffee chain that IPO'd in April, strong brand, growing fast, backed by East Ventures.
Coffee is huge there.
It is. And the other is PT Hero Global Investment, HGII. They IPO'd in January. They're a renewable energy holding company, mini hydro biogas, and have a partnership with a Japanese firm using IPO funds to expand.
Okay, so to kind of bring it all together for someone listening, what are the main takeaways if you're considering Indonesia for long-term investment?
Well, we've seen potential opportunities in possibly undervalued stocks like MTDL in tech, PGEO and Keen in renewables, BRMS in materials, and some dynamic recent IPOs like 4 Coffee and HGII. But, the key things remain a long-term view and diversification. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Absolutely sound advice. Okay, here's a final thought for you to ponder. Indonesia has this ambitious Golden Indonesia 2045 vision. Considering everything we've discussed, the digital boom, the renewable push, downstream in materials, building infrastructure, which of these sectors do you think holds the most truly transformative potential over the next 2 decades? Something to think about. That's our deep dive for today. Thanks for tuning in.